Gennady Golovkin stops David Lemieux in the 8th round to become the unified middleweight champion. This fight lasted slightly longer than I expected. I thought Golovkin would have Lemieux out of there inside 5 rounds. And this was actually quite a reserved performance from Gennady Golovkin. I expected him to be a bit more aggressive and in David Lemieux's face from the opening bell, but he was actually quite cautious and respectful of Lemieux's power maybe, and he was instead relying on his jab, straight punching, and just being the better fighter technically. And he's a much better fighter technically than David Lemieux. We all knew that, but seeing them in the ring together, the skill gap was just absolutely huge. It was massive. David Lemieux's movements, his footwork and everything, he just looked like an amateur next to a novice next to Gennady Golovkin. Golovkin's movements were controlled, precise, whereas Lemieux's footwork was all over the place. He was fighting in a herky-jerky style, and the skill gap was just way too big for him to bridge. And that's really the story of the fight. As far as Lemieux's power, I thought that Lemieux hardly landed any punches. Most of the time when he was swinging, he was way out of range. His footwork was so poor. He was way out of range when he was swinging his shots. So he never managed to really land anything of significance. So we never really got to see how his power would affect Golovkin. There was a time, I think, where he landed a solid jab in one of the rounds. I think it was because he got dropped in the 6th round from a body shot. And he got up from that. I think it was the 7th. He came out and he landed a straight left hand, which seemed to steady Golovkin a little bit. But other than that, Lemieux never really landed anything. Very, very few punches from Lemieux actually landed. Most of the time, he was way out of range when he was swinging, and nothing was getting through. And as I say, Golovkin just kept patiently stalking, breaking him down gradually, not taking any chances. And to me, that was impressive because a lot of people have criticized Golovkin's defense. But when he wants to, when he feels as though he's got an opponent in front of him who poses some type of risk in terms of punching power, then he does have the ability to fight a more controlled, precise, technical fight. And that's what he showed here against David Lemieux. I don't know why David Lemieux is listed as being 5'10", because he's nowhere near that. Golovkin is around 5'10", 5'10 and a half, and he looks significantly taller than David Lemieux. Longer arms as well, because he was able to touch Lemieux from distance easily, and Lemieux wasn't able to land anything back on him. So, yeah, it was slightly anticlimactic, this fight, because I thought it would be a bit more wild. I thought that both guys would stand their ground a little bit more and the fight would be over inside 4 or 5 rounds. But it ended up going 8 rounds. It is what it is. Like I say, slightly anticlimactic, but what are the other middleweight champions going to be thinking now? Some of them might take heart from Lemieux's performance, because Lemieux was only down once in the fight, and that was from a body shot. Other than that, he stood up to Golovkin's punches, head punches, quite well. He didn't seem that as badly hurt as you might have expected from Golovkin's head punches. Although, as I say, because Lemieux was kind of teetering on the border of long range in terms of the distance between himself and Golovkin. He was moving around a lot of erratic, weird movement, which didn't really seem intentional in terms of the weirdness of it. But he seemed erratic the way he was moving around, and just staying on the edge of mid-range / long range. So he was very mindful of getting caught with anything serious from Golovkin. So I think maybe when Golovkin was throwing, he wasn't at the optimum distance all the time to land with full power. And I think that's maybe why Lemieux was able to take the shots quite well to the head. And vice versa, because when Lemieux was throwing back at Golovkin, he was either missing by a wide margin or his shots were just grazing Golovkin and not really landing clean. So, yeah, the guy with the longer arms, the better technique, more skills, was able to prevail in that type of situation. So, yes, some of the fighters might take heart from that, for the fact that Lemieux he didn't get dropped from a headshot. Didn't really get seriously hurt from a headshot. It was more the body shots and the accumulation of headshots that managed to take out David Lemieux. So, you know, Miguel Cotto or Alvarez or Chris Eubank Jr. He's been talking a lot about Golovkin these days. They might look at that and say, you know what? If Lemieux can go 8 just by moving a little bit and whatnot, I reckon I could do something against Golovkin. You know, I'm more skillful than Lemieux. I might be able to do something against this guy. So, I don't know. Tell me what you think, people. Do you think some of the other fighters might look at that and say, Golovkin, maybe not the beast that they're painting him out to be? Very skillful, but if you give him some movement and if there's the threat of power coming back, is there the opportunity there for a bigger fighter than Lemieux, a more skillful fighter than Lemieux, to maybe actually give Golovkin a run for his money? You let me know what you think. What do you think that Miguel Cotto and Alvarez are thinking right now? Andy Lee, Billy Joe Saunders, Eubank Jr. What are they thinking? Peter Quillen. What are they thinking looking at that performance from Golovkin? Are they shaking in their boots, or are they actually taking a bit of heart from it? Where do you see both fighters going from here? Who would you like to see them fight next? I'm sure most people are going to say Golovkin should face the winner of Alvarez against Miguel Cotto, and apparently the WBC have mandated that. So we'll see what happens. Drop your comments in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out.